Well, I am absolutely delighted today to welcome my good friend and anointed author, Shaunelle Harris Drake. Shaunelle, it's amazing to have you with us. We've all been, everyone in the Anointed Authors has been so excited about this day. I mean, it's been with you had a whole, you know, how the Bible talks about a group of witnesses cheering us on. Well, we had a little group of witnesses here on earth cheering you along as well as the angels, didn't we, Shaunelle? I am
That's
so
exactly how it felt.
excited. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm
Thanks,
so
David. Thanks
excited
for
to
having me.
welcome you here. Um, Shaunelle is one of the pioneer cohort in the Anointed Author program. And she's just literally, just in the last few days, has published her book. And only an hour or two before we actually had this call, her book dropped through the door onto her. Yay! Uh, Shaunelle, it's amazing to have you here. As I say, I really mean it sincerely. We've been looking forward to this moment. Why don't you just introduce yourself? Just say a little bit about who you are, and then we can talk about your book.
Thanks, David. It's great to be here. And indeed, it has felt like a band of witnesses cheering me on during this program, but more about that later. So, I am Jamaican living in Switzerland, and I'm here for work. It's been, um, to be honest, I'm not really, I didn't consider myself an author, and I haven't, but I've written journals all along. All my life, I've done journaling. In fact, journaling has been a part of my life: prayer, music, playing the piano, connecting with people, photographs, the creative side of things. That's kind of who I am, and I've brought that to different spheres of my life. But writing a book was not something that was on my mind for sure. In fact, a few years ago, when I heard someone say, "Yes, you should write books," and encouraging people to write, I thought, yeah, whatever. That's not for me. Moving right along. So, I'm happy to be here, and we can talk about how we found each other a
That's
little
so
later.
Chanel. But I mean, that is interesting. I mean, your creativity really has come across just in the way that you've put this book together as well. I mean, I've got to say, it is a thing of beauty, just
Thank
as
you.
you are, you know. But it really is beautiful the way that you've designed it, the way you've worked with an artist to illustrate the book and cover the book. But you said just then that you never really thought that you would write a book. You were like, "Yeah, great idea. Why don't you go write a book? I'll just play my keyboard." And we will be putting a link in to your website because your music is anointed. Every time I put it on Shaunelle, I start listening. Think, oh, I'll just have a little listen to Shaunelle, and I'm still there 2 hours later. But so we'll make sure that we put a link through to Shaunelle's music and her website as well. But like, not thinking of yourself as an author, what was it prompted you to kind of connect in with this and not only write a book, but hey, let's do it in 90 days? I mean, it's pretty audacious.
So, I was home for 5 weeks because I had a broken toe. So I'll save the story for another time. But basically, while I was around week two or so, I said, God, why am I home? Why am I here? There must be something more to being here. And in the fifth week of my recovery at home, I woke up one morning and I heard my love story in yours, my story in yours. I'm like, what was, that early part of the morning when you're just waking up? And I was
Yeah.
like, what's this? So the conversation continued, and I just felt like I heard like start writing. I was like, well, when? And the voice almost like it said, well, if not now, then when?
Yeah.
Okay, then how do I do this? Well, okay, just start 10 minutes per day. So I started on my own. Like I just did a little every day, just started writing, and I had been on your mailing list before, and with the whole writing um and because the thing, there's a sense of writing, but I didn't intend to do a book. So I knew you had shared a few things about get an outline and that kind of a thing. So I
Mhm.
started with your material before, and then life happened, and I did a little every day, but it kind of, I was on my own. And then just when I was finishing a milestone with something else in March, I think it was, or so, I saw that you, on your mailing list, you said 90 days, anointed authors, I'm starting something. And when I looked at the date, it was like the Monday or the week following the last thing I was finishing. So the timing was just totally perfect. And I thought, you know what? I actually need some accountability. I need to be a part of something where others are doing this too. And that's how we connected. And that's how I'm like, okay, let's just keep doing, because I wanted to be obedient to the voice. And I was
Mm.
struggling along, but I was working on something. So I wasn't starting from scratch, but I really needed more than doing it alone. I needed a community.
Yeah, yeah, it does make a huge difference, I think.
Yes.
Just having people around you who are walking the same journey,
Yeah.
facing the same challenges, and just to, I mean, the encouragement that we gave one another. And I'm not, when I say we, I'm not talking about me, although I'm there kind of waving the flag and cheering along and doing everything I can to help people. The power that I witnessed was really in the relationships within that cohort. That like if one was down, the other one would be lifting them up, and if one was we cheered and we laughed together, we cried together a bit. It was really quite remarkable.
Absolutely. And it was amazing how we bonded. Um, it was, there was something about the group, the cohort. And so we're all at different places. I mean, we're from, different countries across the globe. Some retired, some are younger, some writing fiction, some writing nonfiction, but something about the group together working and going as a journey was remarkable. But David, if you allow me, I would also say that there's something about the way that you shepherded us as a group, because I felt that there were times when, yeah, you're right, we're crying together. Some people were frustrated, discouraged along the way, but we're all helping each other. But there's something about the way that you break things down to make it look simple, or rather, not a hindrance and not a hurdle, that we could just keep going. You have this thing about keeping it simple, keeping it short, only saying what you need to say, not overdoing it. Just keep moving. There's progress. Make progress. I mean, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but that was basically what you were bringing, and you were kind of ushering us along the way, and that's really what helped in the community. And I'm really grateful for that, David.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds, Shaunelle, like you already had some of that working in you. You're obviously very much, you're a self-motivated creative person. When you get an idea and you feel as though God's saying something, you certainly come across, and from what you've said, you're someone who will seek to act. Okay, God, you've said it. How do I now act on that? How do I do it? Which I really want to commend, because I've met a lot of people, because obviously I talk to a lot of people, and I talk books, that's one of my things, and they've often said, yeah, yeah, God told me to write a book. And I'm like, well, when did he say? They're like 10 years ago, or, I'm like, wow, that's a long stint of disobedience. You'd better get with the plan here. But I want to just, I want to just rewind a little bit, Shaunelle, because I just think that this is an interesting lesson, and just something powerful, because I'd forgotten actually that you were kind of off your feet, and that actually something that apparently was a bad thing. God turned around for good. And I love the fact, Shaunelle, that you asked the question. You didn't just go, "Oh God, why me? Why is it? Why am I the one who's hurt their foot? Why do things not always work for me?" Your question was much more useful in that you asked, "Lord, there must be a purpose in this that I'm not seeing right now." And do you know, Shaunelle, the reason that the Anointed Authors came about is in January, I got COVID. And, I ended up like laid out in bed for about 3 weeks. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I guess I was probably asking a similar question like, come on, Lord, you're the healer. And I'm laid out here in bed. Like, what's the deal here? And, I was lying there and this idea dropped into my spirit. Just create something to help people write their books. And so during that few
Wow.
weeks, I created and developed the whole idea for Anointed
Wow.
Authors. So I'm just thinking those two
Wow.
seemingly kind of those
Wow.
circumstances that were the opposite of what we would necessarily anticipate as something good. God actually said, "Yeah, man, if you'll let
Wow.
me in, I can make something from this." And so, Anointed Authors, I'm not going to give credit to COVID for it, but it certainly stopped me being busy with everything else and allowed me to just conceive this idea. So, anyways, it was just when you were talking, I thought, oh, wow, that's amazing.
No, but I really am a firm believer of, and I talk about this in the book, of pausing, pulling back, being still. And sometimes, I mean, life happens, and it's not like, I don't believe that it is that God says, okay, let me get this one down so that I can talk to them. He may do that sometimes, but life happens and we go down for whatever reason. And in those moments, He does speak to us, but also if we create this space in our routine, He will also speak to us. But it's also interesting to hear what you just said, because um here is it, this happened while you were down for these 3 weeks. My book came while I was down for these 3 weeks, and in both cases we responded to the prompting, and here we are. And in a sense, we never know the impact of our obedience or disobedience,
Mm.
whichever way you want to look at it, and that's one
Yeah,
of the things that has really hit home to me personally, because there are some people, I guess, who are waiting on us to be obedient to fulfill
yeah,
our calls so that they can be impacted. So yeah, it's just one of the
yeah.
reflection
I
points.
always get a lot of satisfaction as well from something that the devil meant for bad, being able to turn it into a big stick and hit him over the head with it. It always makes it all the sweeter. But Shaunelle, you mentioned that you speak about some of these things in your book. Um, let's have a look. Lift up this awesome book that came through your
Yeah,
door today. Yeah, there it is. Uh, Tell us
yeah.
what's the title of the book, what's the subject of the book, and just share with people who are listening and watching what your book is about, and how you believe it can impact theirs. You talk about our love story been in yours. Explain a little bit about maybe what that means and
Yes.
connect it to the people who are listening here.
Okay. My love story in yours, from a teenage grieving heart to rhythms of retreat and rest. So my love story in yours, that my is actually God's love story written in the story of our lives. In my case, and I believe this is for everyone, but in my case, it is that when I was 15, my mother passed away, and that was a very turbulent time, as one could imagine. I'm the
Mm.
eldest of five now. It was four at the time when my mom passed, and um, we were just on the brink of a relocation. So we moved from one country to another country just 1 month after she died. And being the eldest, it was just a very traumatic time. The move, the relocation was also like a lot of changes.
Yeah.
And I think during that time, I did the best I could to be a big sister, but my role started shifting into like a mother type role. And I found that not by choice, but by choice at the time, I suppressed a lot of my emotions. And so fast forward many years later, decades later, I won't tell you how old I am, although if you read the book carefully, you'll know how old I am.
Yeah,
But basically, many years later, I find myself as an adult having different things come up and realizing that it's linked to the suppression and undealt with grief. And so God led me to what I describe in the book as heart surgery. He pulled me away. I had a retreat. I took a retreat, a personal retreat at a monastery nearby. And it was like 4 days. It was a silent retreat. So 4 days of silence, to just listen to my heart and listen to God, and to just to be there. I didn't intend for it to be a significant and a big milestone moment, but that's what God had in mind. So when I pulled away, it was in those moments that He took me right back to when I was 15, kind of had me look again at my mom, because I saw her there on the hospital bed, and just kind of going back into the moment. But this time He came alongside me through His Spirit, and He encouraged me and helped me to face the pain. So I went right. I mean, it was so painful. We're talking about like a really mess on the floor with tears, and for a long time, like really a messy scene. But in those moments, after that time, I came out of it with such a, it's actually, I can't put into actual words what the experience was like, but it's like he wrapped his arms of love around me. I don't know how to explain it, but in my heart I felt a peace, but more than a peace, a deep peace, and a kind of a love and a comfort. There's a comfort that I've never experienced. Even since, I've never experienced the depth of that comfort. But He took me out, and then I had the rest of the time again silent. It's a silent retreat, so you're not really talking as such. um and I left that place different, but also with a purpose in my heart, never to suppress again. That when the emotions come, like when I'd feel like crying, I would allow the tears to flow. I would not suppress, because I was now starting a healing journey. If you have ever done surgery before, if anyone listening has ever done surgery before, you know that you don't feel better the next day, but you know something has been fixed, or something has happened. So I felt a lot of pain still, even after many days. And so, to cut a long story short, which I share a little in the book, basically I turned to music because I'm a musician, and I searched for music, and I didn't realize that the music that I needed, or the thing I needed to heal my heart, was actually what God already gave me, which was the ability to play piano. And so I was able to, after searching and not finding anything that would quite satisfy the pain to accompany me on my healing journey, I started playing. And then it's like I just found the thing that I needed. And as I describe it in the book, it's as if God's heart of love and healing was coming to me directly, like I was getting a download from heaven through my fingers to my own heart, and He was giving me exactly what I needed. And so I talk about that, and I think, as we as I reflect on it, and subsequently, I should say, I've gone back and taken retreat, and so I've built rhythms of retreat, which is why it says from a teenage grieving heart to rhythms of rest and retreat, because I found in going back from time to time, it would help me to go deeper in the healing, and be more and more healed, if I could say it that way. The
Yeah.
healing just became more and more profound. But I also learned that it was important to build in routines of pulling back, even in the day to day. So like every on a weekly basis, I have a kind of pulling away, which is different, a little deeper than the everyday. During the course of the day, I might have things to kind of help me to and remind me to pull away. So in different seasons, I do more or less different types of things. But I find that it's important to build a rhythm of retreat and rest, rest for your soul, and to create the space for God to speak and into those places. So the book is really a reflection of how He has written His love story in my heart, because what I was able to do as well is to go back to my journal. So thankfully, I've journaled since I was even before my mom died. I have my journals still to this day, all these years. And the beauty of that is that you're able to go back and see the journey. You're able to see what the pain was, how you felt, and how things were resolved and how you dealt with things along the way. And although I didn't grieve and I suppressed a lot along the way, He actually was there. So only look in taking the time now to look back on my journal to discover His love story, because that's, yeah, to discover His love story, like, and so I capture that in the book, and it makes it very practical. Sometimes say, yes, God loves us and stuff, but it really is practical how I am reflecting, wow, that actually was God's love, and now I see it. Yeah.
So
So
Shaunelle, would you say that writing the book was also part of that healing process?
absolutely. Absolutely, because there are times in going, so it's almost like he used the writing of the book to seal the healing,
Uh,
like kind of bring to a close a season of this
yeah.
season of healing. Let me call it that way. And a remarkable thing happened, because while I was writing the book, I had to travel. I had to travel to the place I really relocated to right after my mom died, and I hadn't been there for also decades or for a long, I can't maybe 20 years, and so it was very interesting that now I'm writing as I'm in the middle of my daily writing again for this in this 90-day period, and I go back to the place, and a wave of hurt comes back. I'm like, oh gosh, but I thought I was healed. Like, what's all of this? And yet I found that in that moment, as like, I don't know, I was there. I remember crying. I really broke down and I cried. Because I went back to the place. I mean, it's another story, but I I experienced again that He came beside me and comforted me. And
Yeah.
He taught me, or as it were, He showed me that, yes, I brought you through this, but you know what to do. When you are in pain, you know what to do. You call on me and I will come. And yes. And so I called on Him, and He came and He comforted me. And it was just so beautiful. It was so beautiful what He did. And I was like, because I was like, oh gosh, how am I writing a book about this? But I thought I was over. So He just settled it for me. So it was, the timing was so perfect. And what He did was, like, as you said, kind of part of the writing was to close that chapter in a sense. So yeah.
I can feel the heart of God even as you speak, Shaunelle. It's as I'm sitting here listening to you. You can
Yeah.
feel the heart of God.
Yeah.
And oh man, like, whew,
Yeah.
God is
It's
good.
he
He
loves
is
us.
love. God is
Mm,
love. But
yeah.
taking the opportunity, I mean, you say it's a process, the Bible talks about how He restores our soul.
Hmm.
It's not, He doesn't just kind of slap it with a miracle and like, okay, everything's okay now, go on your way. It's a restoration, because I think it is so much of it is drawn out through our relationship with Him. He is the healer of the broken heart. And a broken heart is a very tender thing. I mean, elsewhere it says that, a broken reed He will not snap or tear. And sometimes we can feel like that on the inside. I'm
Yeah.
sure, Shaunelle, there are people who, you talk about how you suppressed so much. And sometimes that's necessary, man. It's like you've just got to get through. I mean, I can't even begin to comprehend the difficulty of losing your mum and then having to move and relocate and then feeling that weight of responsibility for your siblings, etc. Very, very, very challenging. And it's understandable how in the midst of all that, it's like, man, I can't afford to break down right now. I've just got to get through to the other side of this. But what an amazing story you've been able to tell and that you tell in your book. But it's not just, I think that I actually believe that the title has many, many facets to it. And in the intention being like God saying, hey, my love story is in yours, Shaunelle, and let me now open that up to you. And as you went back to your journals and as you kind of searched your heart to begin to express what you went through, and then the healing process and some of the keys that you uh, are sharing that other people can put into process. I also think that the title speaks of this incredible love story being in the lives of the people who will read your book. I think
Amen.
it will
Yes.
draw them and bring them in to
Yes.
as I say, I could feel God's heart as you were speaking. And I think that as people read your book, they're going to be drawn into a fresh revelation of the heart of God for them as an individual, because he cares for them as an individual. He cares for the brokenness that they feel on the inside. He sees the things that have been stuffed down and hidden away and piled under busyness and piled under whatever things we pursue to try and comfort ourselves. And I believe that your book is going to be instrumental in allowing people and giving people permission to say, actually, it's okay to feel this. Actually, it's not just okay, it's good that I feel this and allow this emotion to come out in the right context, and that context is in the love of God, having him there with them to carry them through and to kind of point out, even in the difficulties that they've gone through, hey, there, I was there.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
me.
Yes.
It's just, your story
Yes.
is so beautiful, but it's like, man, this is the story of so many people, I think. And God has chosen you, Shaunelle, to to put these incredible truths in a form that someone else can pick up and see their story in your story and in the story that God is speaking and singing over their life.
Yes.
It's truly beautiful, Shaunelle. I mean, honestly, you must feel really, I say this, you must feel really honored that the Lord would come and say, hey, Shaunelle, I want you to write this.
It's humbling. Um, and as you're talking, it's actually the way you articulated it, it's true. It's my desire that people would see how God is fashioning or living out or expressing his love in their lives and in their story. And one of the things that saddens me is that I think people miss the point sometimes because we're so on the go, on the go, on the go, on the go. We don't really stop to reflect. We don't remember to remember. We don't pause, and I think that is kind of the, if I was to boil everything down, apart from the title and so on, I would say that it is this. It is to actually take the time to pause,
Yeah.
because it's in the pausing that he gets to speak and you get a chance to see and to witness and to sense his love. Because when we, we're on the go so much and we fill our time on our days with activity, um, we don't get to see. We're scrambling, but we're not really getting to see. We're trying to solution and find problems and search for answers all over. But sometimes the answer is really just in listening and realizing, actually, God's love is here with me. So let me embrace his love and keep going in his strength and in his love in a different way. And live from the inside out from that position rather than, yeah. So that's the thing that stands me, and I'm hoping that people will take that away as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I love as well, Shaunelle, the fact that, because I think people who may have a desire to write a book, as you did, they may feel, as you did, that's not for me. And and there'll be other people who think, well, I've got this desire to write a book, but I'm not a great writer. I don't think anyone will read my book. Who would want to hear what I've got to say anyways? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, there's this endless list of reasons why not to write a
Yeah.
book. And I guess in Anointed Authors, we just we take that same statement and say, well, why not?
Right, exactly.
Like just we just change the way we say it. Why
Yeah.
not write a book?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
actually, and I've seen this in a number of people now, and to be honest, it's probably the most to me one of the most beautiful things is not so much even, hey, I've got this book out and people are buying it and people are reading it and oh wow, how amazing, but it's actually, wow, God's done something in me.
Mhm.
This process was actually something that he wanted to do in me. This process of getting things out of my heart onto the page has actually helped me to excavate something on the inside that's allowed God in where he
Absolutely.
wanted to be and where he wanted to speak and how he wanted to speak. And actually the value of writing this book is like it's valuable in and of itself. This process
Absolutely.
is so incredibly powerful, even if like you, your grandma, and your mum are the only one who ever buy the book, which is usually not the case. But even if that were the case, it's like, man, this was a valuable thing to do, and God has done something powerful in me. And I think it's through that inner work that when the books then kind of come out into the world and people read them, they can sense, wow, God's worked in this. God is at work in this.
Mhm.
And that's how he gets on the inside. Every word in your book is a seed that can go into someone else's heart and bring healing to them. Shaunelle,
Amen.
amazing. It's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Shaunelle, I don't want to keep you for too long. This is really just an opportunity to celebrate your like amazing success, in that you brought this book, and I'm sure it wasn't an easy book to write, Shaunelle. You had to make actually a quality decision. I'm going to see this through because it's not always an easy process, but it's, and so we're here to celebrate and to commend you and to declare God's amazing goodness and grace over you, and to just praise him for who you are, all that you've been through, all that you've learned, and all that you bring to others. But I would love if you would do me the honor of maybe just talking a little about your experience in the Anointed Authors course. I know you've touched on it. And if there are people here today watching or listening who are in that place of like, yeah, book, it's not really me. I don't know what I'd say. What if I don't write it the way it should be written? Or like, but a book is like a book. Like
Yeah,
it's some big heavy thing, like the Lord of the Rings or something.
yeah,
Some big book that you can see on a shelf and it's about 6 inches thick. Um, what what would you say to them, Shaunelle, at this junction? Like the opportunity that they may have to actually take that bold step and say, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do this. What was your experience like, and what would you say to someone who's maybe standing on the other side of that experience, thinking, shall I, shan't I?
yeah. So, David, I would say a few things. One is that if you feel like you should write a book, but you can't write a book, then you should write the book. Then you should be here, because there something starts with a nudge, and it's important to listen to that nudge. In the Anointed Authors context and the program, what I found is that regardless of where I was at in that journey, because it's a journey, the process of writing is the content, but it's also the journey, the logistics and the what do I do first, and that's the practical part of it. This is a safe place to ask the most basic questions and the most complicated questions. This is a place where the resources are easily accessible, and you can get things done. Things aren't complicated. You can find all the things you need. And I think, David, one of the things I appreciated that you did was when someone asked a question, if you didn't provide that resource, it became a resource after that. The answer became a resource that was added. So in a sense, what you've ended up with as well, what we and anyone joining the program now will have had all of David's thought about what questions you may have, and then our questions that were added to that. So it's richer. I think as well the community dimension, because like I said, if there's some doing nonfiction, some doing fiction, some doing big books, some doing small books, but the community to kind of work things through with is such a blessing, and it's a resource in and of itself instead of doing it on your own. But if you feel as if you don't really want to write a book, or you don't think you have anything to write about, because I've heard this too. There are many people, friends and other people I say, oh my gosh, they have such a rich story and experience to share. I said, no, me, I would never write a book, which is where I was. Okay, fine. If you don't think you can write a book or you should write a book, that's okay. But what I know is that when you write a book, as from personal experience, it does something in your own heart. So even if it is that you're writing the book and then you're going to decide to do something with it when you're finished, write the book. Because it's important, that journey of writing does something for you. And you're, in a sense, you're opening the door to God working in your heart in a particular way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think there are a few different dimensions. And in terms of the timing, don't wait, because you don't know what tomorrow has, and you also don't know who needs the words that you have. And I think that's one of the important things we don't think about too much. We think about ourselves, and we don't think about who actually needs what's here.
Oh, wow. That's so true, Shaunelle. I mean, right at the outset of the program, I talk about something that I like to call the 4 R's of successful self-publishing. And I'll let the cat out of the bag. It's reader, 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 reader. Because that's really what this is about. It's about us taking what God has done in us and being generous enough to make ourselves vulnerable to help someone else. And I think you have done that in a just such a tremendous fashion, Shaunelle. I'm really honestly blown away at the grace of God that is at work in your life. And I'm really praying that this book will be instrumental in bringing healing to many, many hearts. You're an
Amen.
incredible person. Yeah.
Thanks, David. David, I just want to say one more thing that one of the things that I found amazing that I don't know, I mean, the only thing I can say is that this was spirit led, is that during the course of these 90 days, you would drop nuggets. We had this WhatsApp group, and you would drop nuggets from time to time. Sometimes it seemed ad hoc, like a random time. Sometimes it was in the morning. So, but you just drop these nuggets like a one liner, or you put a graphic with a little cartoon with a little thing. And I don't know, somehow, whatever you dropped at that phase of where we were at or where I was at, it just spoke directly into something that I was going through in my writing journey or in the process, whether it was feeling inadequate, whether it was, oh gosh, can I skip today? And it's like, just keep going, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's just 100 words, like just little things, little things. And so it's like the little things along the way that just help to keep us going. So we had the main training, so we could go through systematically, the videos, and it would cover all the things, and whatever applied to whether you're using a Word or a PC or using a Mac, whether you're using Word to edit or Vellum, whether you had a different
Yeah.
scenario. So I chose what I needed to go through. But that's just a standard. But then along the way, somehow I don't know. I really don't know. All I can say. I mean, I say it's spirit led. Like you're just prompted, or I don't know what it is, but it was just amazingly appropriate, and I cherished that very much. I also liked the fact that we recorded our sessions, and I think there were two times I couldn't come because of traveling, and sometimes you say, okay, yes, I'll get back to the replay, but I needed to make sure I didn't miss this. I went to the replays, and the replays were so powerful as well, just the fellowship as well as the trainings. And yeah,
Wow.
it's really unique. I think you really open the way for God to be a part of the journey, and that is what is the difference between this cohort or this anointed authors program compared to others. I tell you, I didn't say this to you before, but just at that time when I saw that when anointed authors was the invitation was there to join. There was another invitation from another source, and I looked at both. And the other person is also someone I good, a good resource and so on. I looked at both, and the difference between the two was, one, your heart in on your mailing list, your newsletters, like your heart consistently, just it's like about the other person, about me, about us, the people that you're sharing with. And the second thing is that this was clearly a Christian based. Anointed authors is not just a name, but it's that you believe, and you wove into the whole program God, it, Jesus Christ. It was the center. It's not just another one. And I said, this is where I need to be, because for me it wasn't that I wanted to write for I'm not writing for a business. I'm not writing because I want to make money. It's not about the royalties, and that wasn't the purpose. It was because my heart, yeah, it was the obedience and all of that part, and I needed my focus to stay in this place, to protect this spring. And this is what was special that you brought into this. And that's so I think for anyone who actually is a believer and really wants to preserve and not lose and erode that part from the journey, this is the place to be. And I think that is the edge that this program has. Apart from the 90 days, let's do it, and just and all of those wonderful
Thank
things.
you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Shaunelle.
David. Thanks
I
for the
appreciate
opportunity.
that. I'm actually really looking forward to, and we'll wrap up in a moment, but you talk about the journey. I'm really excited. I begin my next cohort of fresh authors, yeah, in just a few days' time. And I'm actually really excited about the journey that we're going to take together because, Shaunelle, I don't even know what I'm going to say. I don't know what kind of interactions are going to take place. I don't know what kind of things God is going to just drop in my heart. Oh, post this, put this picture, record this message, send
Yeah.
this to this person now, and so it's actually it's a really precious journey to take for me
Yeah.
as well, in this. And it's not just like okay, it's day one, I will post this video. It's
Yeah.
like
No, it's
it's
as
like
dynamic
everything.
as the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I can really feel the hand of the Lord on it. And do you know why I feel the hand of the Lord on it? Not because of David, but because he has, and you've expressed this so clearly, because he has a heart for the people in the program, and he is invested in the books that they're writing.
Yes.
It's an amazing thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Shaunelle, I want to thank you again. It's been a real blessing to have you here in the house. This is one of the rooms in the author's mansion. This is
Yes.
where we hang out. We've got a
Yeah.
24/7 author's mansion where you can come in and hang out with the other authors and other people in the cohort, and we gather here for meetings. This is one of the little side rooms here where I have my cozy cup of tea
Yeah.
with my uh, my friends. And Shaunelle, you're amazing. I'm so
Thank you,
pleased
David.
that this book finally hit the shelves. And I say
Yes.
finally, but wow, it happened in such a short window of time, really. And
Yes.
yeah, I'll be putting the links in. So if you're watching, listening, the links to Shaunelle's website, the link to her book, of course. And if you've got any questions about the Anointed Authors, I'll put the link into that as well, and you can get in touch. God bless you, Shaunelle. And
Thank you. Thank you,
yeah,
David. Thanks for the
who knows where
opportunity.
God's going to lead you next, sister.
Yeah.
We'll speak soon, I'm sure. God bless.
Thanks.
Bye
Cheers.
bye.
Bye.